Welcome back to the Hope Mobile, you guys.
Wow.
My
Thanks
little
for
brother
having me.
showed up. I can't believe it.
Thanks for having me. in the
Yeah,
Hope
man.
Mobile.
Yeah,
This is
kid.
great.
Yeah, kid.
I'm loving the Hope Mobile.
Yeah.
Hell of a vibe in here.
Right?
So amazing. Great energy. It matches who you are.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's got personality.
absolutely.
So, tell us about the month of May.
The month of
Because
May.
I knew nothing about it.
I didn't either myself. The month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. With a subject.
And what a perfect month for it to be Mental Health Awareness Month in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, where it's something affecting everyone.
Oh, absolutely.
And so actually about that, so in the conversations of health and health related things, mental health is very much top of that. Without your mental health being in a certain place, you cannot do other things.
Yeah.
So talking about mental health, it has a lot of stigmas associated with it. Unfortunately, for the most part, because those stigmas for the most part are pretty negative.
Yeah.
And mental health alone should not be related to wellness or illness.
Yeah.
It should just be recognized and identified, respected as just mental health.
So it should be thought of as your chest is doing bench presses.
Right, so
or
when we look
doing
at-
squats for your legs, or going running for your cardio.
Yeah, if you think about it in a sense, physical health doesn't really have too many negative stigmas with it.
Yeah.
It's all positive. You
Yeah.
know, whether it affects losing weight because you're overweight,
Yep.
whether it affects or speaks to the tone of just developing strength and a tone to your body.
Yeah.
It being healthy because of course the health benefits and affecting your body in that
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
So mental health should technically be looked at in the same tone.
Yeah.
Now granted, there are people that suffer in a sense from different responses based on your mental health
Yeah.
and how you respond to it, and that's the hope I wanted to bring to the Hope Mobile, to change the stigma of it, to open up
Yeah.
a different outlook with it, such as mental health is just another form of being healthy. Thing is, you need to tap into it and familiarize yourself with it and get in tune with it, because mental health it's a health, again, it's a form of health, it's an approach to health that no one can get away from.
Yep.
It has nothing that it needs to only be associated with mental wellness or mental illness.
Yep.
It's another form of being healthy.
Yeah.
And for what mental health is in relation to, it comes from the parenting that was, put upon you,
Yep.
how you were raised. It comes from your life experiences.
Yep.
And then it also comes from whatever those stressors are.
Yep.
Now, granted, when you look at the difference of wellness or illness, you figure that too, it comes from those three things.
Yeah.
And for whatever that person is, whoever that person is why they can either look at it and then now start to categorize it as, I'm well through my mental health,
Yeah.
or I'm ill through my mental health.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take anything away from anybody about it.
Right.
Again, it goes back to the things that you're either dealing with, how you were raised, and then also with your life experiences.
Yeah.
Mental health is important based upon, it's the potential of like who you are for yourself, how you need to respond to things, how you do respond to things,
Yeah.
and what that looks like. Tapping into mental health, the importance of getting into it regardless of who you are, what your race is, how you respond to things, how you don't respond to things,
Yeah.
is for just that peace for yourself. It's important to tap into who you are, what stimulates you, what takes away from you,
Yep.
and then respecting that for yourself. And that's that mental health relation.
So do you think, a healthy mind and the body will follow? Or do you think a healthy body and then the mind will follow?
Has to start with the mind.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, in order for you to get a healthy body, you have to actually do certain things.
Yeah.
Well, if you have an interrupted mind, that may even take you all the way from being able to do anything,
Towards your own physical health.
then how can you do it?
Yeah.
And that's why mental health is very important. It starts there for you to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
We might take away from the tone of how important it is for us to have our minds right, to be able to wake up, wash, shower, get dressed, eat,
Yep.
go to work. Well, and I'm glad I just said it that way, because if you think of it, anorexic, depression, anxiety, the different things that we know are related to mental illness, if you think about it, they actually have like physical things that take away from a person when they're going through that.
Yeah.
People can't eat when they're,
Yeah.
having troubled minds.
Yep.
You know, they don't want to work. They don't want to do anything.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people will
Yep.
sit at home and, or, you know, if they had an RV opportunity like the Hope Mill Bill, they'll sit right here and
Yep.
not care about anything that's going on or not want to be involved with anything that's going on because unfortunately they may be mentally interrupted.
Yeah.
And so the importance of, again, mental health and getting into the tone of approaching your mental health is to be able to understand the importance of finding and creating solutions
Yeah.
for when you go through things,
Yeah.
for when you're dealing with stressors.
Yeah.
Because you have to. You know, you're going to go through things in life.
Well, and don't you think now, especially with this COVID, the pandemic, the lockdown, people out of work, people stuck at home, now a lot of people are questioning, like, you know, maybe people that never really even thought about mental health. Now's a time where mental health is probably more thought about and mulled over than any time before, because this is taking people that were probably in a really good space,
Yes.
comfortable,
Yes.
you know, going from day to day,
Yes.
everything was in order, you know, the bills are paid,
Mhm.
the kids are taken care of,
Mhm.
kids are in school, they're safe for 8 hours, I'm going to work, my car's oil's changed, my groceries are in, and now all of a sudden it's flipped.
Yes.
And it takes people off of they're forced out of a comfort zone.
Forced.
And I know for me, truthfully, and I was just talking about it yesterday out here, I said, I was one of those people that when the pandemic, back in March,
Mhm.
when they said, look, we're shutting stuff down, like
Sure.
there was literally like talk of shutting stuff down. I was one of those people that ran out to Costco.
Okay.
I mean, I was panicked.
Okay.
And I don't normally panic.
Sure.
I mean, I
Sure.
am usually pretty. I'm pretty even
Sure.
keeled when it comes to those kinds of things.
Mhm.
I literally bought into it, and it stressed my mental health.
Yeah.
It stressed me big time.
Yeah. I think that regardless of any way that you responded to this forceful time, you dealt with something related to mental health. Figure for the things that we go through, it's a couple things that we typically normally do. Like
Right.
two things I think are very common. I think like one, we jump to like run and talk about it in
Yeah.
a sense where, you know, a friend, you know, therapy, any form of like getting it out,
Yeah.
trying to get it off our chest by conversing with someone maybe.
Yeah.
You figure, in a sense, that kind of takes away from you a little bit.
Right.
Like, so to elaborate, it takes away from you in a sense where you shared it with someone. You did get it off your chest,
Yeah.
which could be a great thing for
Yeah.
you. And then maybe that person you spoke to, maybe they're advising different things for you in a
Yeah.
sense. So now you also have someone kind of contributing to you creating solutions.
Right.
The other thing is that, like, when it comes to, and that's more so, I'll categorize that and say I kind of took that approach in response to like negative things.
Right.
We can do that also with exciting things as well.
Right.
And when we do that, again, we're sharing it. We are excited to share it. And we lose two things in a sense with doing both of those. One, within ourselves, for ourselves, with our own problems, which for the most part, that's what it is. That's what we ran to tell, if it was bad or good.
Yeah.
We took away the opportunity for ourselves to understand it for ourselves, cope with it for ourselves, deal with it for ourselves, create a solution for ourselves on how to respond to this bad thing,
Yeah.
or how to enjoy the excitement of this one thing. And it takes away from us,
Yeah.
in a sense. And then when you see things kind of repeat in a sense, maybe you don't know how to respond to it.
Yeah.
And technically, when you talk about the mental illness related things, that's all it is. You don't know how to respond to whatever may be going on. And that's why mental health and getting into mental health is not bad.
Yeah.
That's why I spoke so heavy on it not being related to just wellness or illness.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that something is wrong with someone.
Right.
It's all about how they're responding to it.
Yeah.
And technically, you figure we all should be able to respond to ways in a way that doesn't take away from us in a negative light.
Yeah.
Doesn't put us to having to go and be depressed, having to go and deal with anxiety,
Yeah.
having to go and be anorexic or binge do this or so. It's all about really respecting what it is that you have going on, what you're experiencing, what you're going through, and figuring out and creating solutions for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you figure for the most part, a lot of the things we go through, in a sense, when we don't create a solution,
Yeah.
it comes back.
What about this? I mean, I've always been the type of person, and I'm trying to fight against it. I'm always looking for signs. Or I'm like, I struggle with superstition versus spirituality versus my own consciousness.
Okay.
I always read the Bible, and
Sure.
I believe that to be truth, and I think that's helpful, and it nurtures my spirit, my soul.
Okay.
But man-made things, I'm becoming a little bit leery of, because for me, I can be so wishy-washy. I get confused.
Okay.
I can get blown into the breeze.
Okay.
And I see a sign, and I'm like, oh man, that must mean I need to do this or I need to do that.
I think that, first of all, that everything mentioned was amazing and very necessary to be mentioned, because one,
It's the truth. That's
it's
the
very,
crazy
very,
thing.
very much the truth.
Yeah.
And while that's the truth, a part of mental health is knowing who you are.
Yeah.
And for everything that will kind of comment to that relates to you knowing yourself,
Yep.
knowing who you are,
Yep.
what you want to do.
Yep.
You know what? Not even about what you want to do, or I was going to then even say how you want to do it, but
Yep.
more importantly, knowing who you are.
Yep.
Accepting yourself for you, for you. Because then that will allow everything else to kind of fall in line,
Crazy.
or allow you to be able to have things fall in line.
It's crazy. You
Well-
can be a therapist. $20.
Well, here's the thing.
I paid him $20.
Listen, I'll conclude on that.
$20.
with
I got.
something very
I gave him
personal.
that.
I need my
You
20
robbed
bucks.
me, dude.
I need 20 bucks. Then. you going back to
shit.
signs and relating signs to everything you just said. Those signs become way more clear, and they're not a confusion or a challenge too much anymore. The more you know who you are,
Agreed.
because the signs, once you know who you are, you'll know what the signs are. You'll know what they mean. You'll know how to follow them. You'll know how to ignore them.
Yes.
Because you'll know who you are enough to know what that signs mean or what it doesn't mean.
And that's why I feel like naturally I'm weaning myself off of some shit.
Sure.
Because
sure.
I feel like I wake up, I'm focused, comfortable, and I'm like, I'm not looking for it.
Yeah.
I'm finding what I was searching for not long ago. I'm finding it in here, and I think it's
Which is
because
where it starts.
Yes,
And where it ends actually as well.
That's a good point.
Which also, I think to some extent, in some religion approaches, some spiritual religious approaches, it actually instructs and it speaks light onto how for ourselves, we're already whole.
yeah,
We don't need anything else. We don't need anybody else.
Yep.
Like, it starts here within.
yep,
It's so many different things we know about that, like, actually even relates to that. Birds of a feather flock together. You figure,
yeah,
for you to be true to who you are and put yourself around people who you should be around, then
Yeah.
everything aligns with who you are.
Yeah.
You figure we go through relationship challenges and battles when we are associating ourselves with someone that shouldn't be with us, in a sense, or we shouldn't be with them. But the only reason that that's a thing anyway is because maybe within the midst of both those people, whoever are involved in those relationships might not know themselves enough so that they should even be having a relationship, friendship, anything with somebody else, in a sense. Knowing yourself is very important, and that is strictly and heavily related to a mental health thing.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
To like personalize this approach
yeah,
a little bit more.
yep,
2 times in my life, when I was a youth, a juvenile in a sense, like, was I even a teenager yet? No, I wasn't.
yeah,
Second time, it wowed me that, wow, I wasn't even a teenager yet. And then as a grown man in my 20s, late 20s at that, to deal with and consider highly and struggle with suicidal ideation. To be where I am now, to understand things, to be able to respond to things, that where I am relates to no longer having suicidal ideation, no longer having a desire to want to get into suicide, in a sense.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say about that is suicide has a stigma that suicide, for the most part, can relate to a response of mental health.
yeah,
On the illness side of it, as they categorize it, and we talk about the wellness and the illness, and a lot of people immediately will talk about how weak someone was for committing suicide, and then also how much they lacked consideration for people in their lives when they also commit suicide.
yeah,
And I actually think the complete opposite, where I think to a certain extent there's strength in committing suicide. Now, it's not something that should happen.
Yeah.
You shouldn't commit suicide, and that's a journey that you have to take, that I took for myself. And what happened was, for me, I understood that for the point I was where I considered suicide, it was life or death.
Yeah.
I've reached the point, and I hit the peak, and I was at the top of the mountain where
That's a heavy
things
spot.
boiled up, and I said, all right, I no longer want to be here. But I have a son, which contributed to me having to make a decision that I understood was important, to live or to die.
Yeah.
And with making the decision that I said I want to live, I also said that I don't want to respond to the things that brought me to feeling like I wanted to commit suicide,
Yeah.
the same as I did to be back to where I feel like I want to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And so I took it on very, very heavy to make sure that I created those solutions we talked about for myself, within myself, the excitement, the bad, the good, whatever. Yeah. And knew that because one thing about in my decisions of everything, it was never to expect in my future, if I did decide life, which I have, that I would no longer have stressors.
Right.
I know that they'll still be around. So my thing was to figure out how to respond to them so that I can fall on the mental wellness side of the category rather than the mental illness side of the category.
Yeah.
And with strength and with taking advantage of all of the outlets that relate to mental health. I mean, from therapy, outpatient, inpatient. It's so many different things that reading, and even when you did mention getting away from self-help books and things like that, that's something, the reason you can do that and you came to that is because that's something that works for you.
Yeah.
You become aligned more with yourself, and you know that for you,
Yep.
they don't work for me. I don't necessarily need to fight through the opinion of this person and that person, like you said, the man-made things.
Yeah.
While for others, they may work. It may let you open your eye into things and bring you to which one of the biggest things I love behind respecting mental health and knowing who I am is affirmation. Affirmation is a great thing.
Yes. Definitely.
Affirmation is
I
very,
get it
very
a lot.
exciting.
I know, it is exciting.
And it falls right in line with science.
Yes.
And
yeah, it absolutely does.
it just automatically confirms what you've either worked on or what you're working on.
Yep.
Again, you'll be able to know what those signs look like.
Yep.
Mental health. Yeah.
You're right. I groove on confirmation and affirmation. When you say things with the conversations that we have sometimes, it's like, oh man, sometimes my feet leave the ground. I feel like I'm like, man, it's so uplifting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So uplifting.
Yeah. Something I just
iron sharpens iron. I always say that, man, and I do
very
firmly
true.
believe it.
Very
man.
true.
Iron sharpens iron.
Very
the Bible
true.
says it. It's very specific.
Oh,
and
the
it's
Bible.
true.
Glad you said it, because that's what
Yeah.
it was. I grew up Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up Christian, and it's a pretty common story about like when you're out in that boat or you're out in the water and you're drowning,
Yep.
and you're praying to God for help.
Yep.
And He sends the life jacket, and then He sends the boat. He sends another boat.
Log goes by.
Right, and you ignored all of those signs,
Yep.
not knowing that they were signs, not
Yep.
realizing that they were help, and then you also declined them in a sense, saying, "Oh, I prayed about it. God will come get me."
Yeah.
Not identifying that was like kind of the way.
Yeah.
Again, tapping into yourself, understanding who you are, you'll then realize, because you're in tune.
Yeah.
It's like a form of like being in tune. Like,
Yeah.
I know who I am now. I know what I want now. I know what I want to do.
Yep.
And then everything about you just aligns with that.
Yep. Yep.
It's a great thing. I have this like process of how I actually work on things for myself,
Yeah.
which relates to working on me,
Yeah.
which is acknowledge, accept, and take action.
Yeah.
Acknowledgement is completely different than acceptance. Acknowledgement is just saying like, okay, I see, or I see, for lack of better words. I got it. I see this is going on.
Check.
But accepting it means that like now you taking it to not only seeing it, not only getting it, but like getting it further, where you see and you dug into why it's going on.
Yep.
And you looked at yourself for how you contribute to that, or how you take away from that, which now you've taken it to acceptance.
Yep.
And then so to take action behind that means, okay, well, what are you going to do to change it? Like, I acknowledged it, I'm accepting it now. Now, what do I need to do? What action do I need to take in order to change it?
Yeah. It's the old serenity prayer. You have to have the courage to accept the things you can't change, and then you have to have the courage to change the things that you can change. And
Yeah,
you have to
take
be able to know the
accountability.
difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But acceptance is key. The thing that makes my heart smile is not knowing what's coming down the pike. Like, I groove on the fact that I don't know what the future holds. There's gonna be downs, there's gonna be ups, there's gonna be in betweens. But I think for me, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Not knowing, you know.
Okay.
I could run off the road today and you'll never see me again, or I could hit the lottery tonight.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. And you know, some people fear that though too.
I know. I think
The
the
only thing I
unknown
can think about that is the fact that, I mean, the thing is I'm glad you said it, because in a sense, taking that tone, a lot of us have an actual problem with living in the now.
Yeah.
Living like right here in the moment.
Yep.
We either have too much focus on the past or too much focus on the future, which actually, as you know,
Yep.
they say depression is constant thinking about the past, constant thoughts about the past.
Yep.
And they say that anxiety is constant thoughts about the future.
That's huge.
And when I first heard it and I dug into it and I identified when I feel like I'm depressed and I identified when I feel like I'm dealing with anxiety, it was just that. My depression was related to me constantly thinking about something that already happened.
Yep.
And my anxiety was me thinking about something that didn't even happen yet.
Yep.
That might not even happen, because that's related to the
That
future. So I don't
oftentimes
even
won't
know.
happen.
I don't even know.
Yes.
So to identify that for myself, I said, well, you know what? If the past is the past, as we know what the past means, it means past tense is behind us,
Yep.
and that means it's not a thing now. Why allow myself to have depression behind it? And,
Yep.
and for what depression did for me, which was a negative thing, it took away from a lot of life for me.
Yep.
It made me easily be able to say, I'm going to leave it in the past where it is anyway.
Yeah.
So depression was easy to get away from once I heard that.
Yep.
Anxiety as well, it was a little harder, but to realize that the future is the future. I know nothing about the future.
Yep.
I do consider myself to be optimistic. I also don't consider myself to set expectations or have assumptions, because with expectations and assumptions, if you set an expectation, bad or good, and it doesn't go as you expected, you get upset behind it.
Yep.
But if you don't have an expectation, there's nothing for you to get upset about.
Yep.
When you assume, if you make an assumption and the assumption doesn't weigh in your favor,
Yep.
you're going to get upset about it.
Yep.
So with those outlooks too, I was easily able to remove myself from the assumptions and expectations, which as well, anxiety that being a response of,
Yep.
you know, thinking about the future, it eventually came as well for that. And now I'm right here.
Yep.
Now I'm right here. I'm in the present. I'm here with the now, where if something happens from the past now, we might have heard what I said, and we might have said, well, what are we not to think about the past at all, or not consider the past for the future maybe in consideration? No, absolutely you can.
Yeah.
You can take the past and allow it to set the tone for how, you know, you'll live in the present. And
Learn
the
from it
possibil-
and grow.
Learn from it.
Yeah.
Perfectly said.
Yep.
But you find a balance of it. You know, we use this word balance heavy,
Yep.
to not have it overwhelm you,
Yep.
overwork you, frustrate you,
Yep.
create rage,
Yep.
create anger,
Yep.
create sadness. You don't want to have it, you don't want to allow it to have that much weight
Yep.
when it doesn't even matter, because you don't know what the future is, and
Yep.
then also the past already happened.
It's very rare if anything turns out
Very true.
the way that we projected it.
Yeah. Wow.
There's the
Rain.
You like the Hope-mobile?
I love the Hope Mobile.
Yeah, I love it too, man.
The rain.
I love it too.
Talked about signs. So it just started raining. I don't know. Will they possibly be able to
I
hear
think
that?
they'll probably hear it.
So for me, immediately, and you talked about signs, and for me, signs come easier now to identify, accept, refuse, whatever.
Yeah.
For me, this is a sign, based on our conversation, to come on top of and to have success with your mental health, right? To be on top of it, have positive things happen, and be positive, to meet success with your mental health, you'll wash away the past.
Yeah.
You'll wash away all your struggles, you'll grow from it. So what's the quote they talk about, you got the storm will pass or something like that?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
rainy days.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with it,
Yeah.
where the sun will come back out again. Like, you got to go through the storm, and the storm is not forever.
Yeah.
Just like when I had the suicidal ideation, the suicidal thoughts, it was like, a lot of what I heard was, that's a temporary solution for or that's a permanent solution for
For
temporary problems.
Yeah.
The rain always passes and then the sun comes back out.
This too shall pass.
Boom.
Yeah.
And it started raining.
That's so true.
Sign.
And you know what I think of? Tears of heaven. You know? I don't know, I heard that from my grandparents or something. They said, you know, at a funeral or a wedding or, you know, if it rains, it's like, it's not such a bad thing. It's a good thing. They're tears from heaven. And I was like, I don't mind the rain.
In conclusion, in a way, mental health is a continuum.
Yeah.
It's never end all be all. It's never
No,
I
you're
found
never
the solution and then I'm done. No, it's a forever thing.
No graduation.
Nah.
Nope.
Because of the three factors I said that relate to it. The stress, what you're going through.
Yep.
How you were raised.
Yep.
And then whatever your experience is.
Yep.
Like.
And you're experiencing stuff till the day you
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
My buddy Tom always said that they would be shoveling dirt onto his grave, and he'd be screaming from his coffin, "You got to let me out because I got more work I got to do on myself."
Oh.
That's exactly what he would literally, and he went to his grave saying that because he's been gone a few years.
I'm so glad you kind of said that in a sense and shared that. That's major.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's how strongly he believed in working on himself.
When I stepped away and I identified, when I acknowledged that I needed to seek more help behind my suicidal thoughts,
Yep.
right? It came behind me not wanting to feel like I wanted to live anymore. And when I did everything that I did, which I went and got into inpatient therapy, so I was in a facility that offered tons of different variations of support.
Yep.
I was unconcerned about leaving. You know, I told you, like, you asked me how long would I possibly, like, want to get into this and go and add this to working on myself and
Yep.
for myself. I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put a time on it. And while I was doing it, I wasn't concerned about time.
Yeah.
What came to me was, I'm ready to live again. That's how I knew. Like, it just was a feeling. It
Yeah.
was me knowing that I wanted to kill myself. I was done with living. I didn't feel like I was living anymore.
Yep.
Didn't feel complete, didn't feel full, everything that related to this conversation. But then once I sought the help and I got into it and I did things, I figured out solutions and things and I kept doing it, I reached a point where I felt excitement and excitement started to grow again and I said, wow, I'm ready to live again.
Yeah.
And behind that, what happened was, I used to, prior to me like revisiting, because I mentioned that in my youth, which also adds great emphasis to, get out of here, bud.
Oh, stank bug.
This adds great emphasis as to what we were talking about, this being a continuum, because I mentioned this happened in my youth,
Yep.
and it happened in my later years.
Yep.
So 2 different times with great space in between.
Yep.
I remember once I said I'm ready to live again, that I used to live in a way where it felt like that idea that they talk about you can die at any day, and you know, there's a tone about that where it's like you should be at peace with like knowing you could go any day, and like not have to feel like, you know, you'll leave Earth and you didn't do enough, and because you gotta live every day like it's your last. That's what they say.
Yeah.
I used to do that.
Yeah.
And then when I lost that, but then it came back again, it helped and added so many emphasis on everything we talked about. Living in the now.
Yep.
Not overthinking things.
Yep.
Not letting things bother you.
Yep.
Understanding the weight of maybe what something else, or maybe what something should have or shouldn't have.
Yeah.
It helped me identify and understand the importance of sleep. Like getting rest, resting your body.
Yeah.
So many different great things.
Did that feeling of not wanting to be here just come on, or did something trigger it? Or,
Oh, no, it was
or
just-
it's just been just.
You know what it was? It was everything you talked about when you returned to work when Jimmy unfortunately passed.
Yeah.
Doing it, but never taking time for yourself to have a balance.
Yep.
I gave and I gave and I gave and I was doing and I was doing and I was
Empty.
doing. I was moving.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, I just was like, I collapsed. I was tired. I was tired of moving. I was tired of thinking. I was tired of giving.
Yep.
And the thing is, what came for me at an early age, what came for me at an early age through high school was how to be the best I could for relationships.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we all know about he say, she say. We all know about, you know, drama in a sense. And what happened for me to take that approach was I had relationships they involved a bunch of people. Let's say like 30 people.
Yeah.
But then within that 30 people, there were smaller relationships as well.
Yeah.
2s and 3s and 5s. And relating specifically for me for like the he say, she says, us being kids and saying this behind somebody's back, and it caused a lot of, by the time everything went around, and we all know about that, like, you know, somebody adds something to the story. It caused a lot of drama. It caused a lot of confrontations. It just was negativity. And I identified that, and I said, okay, you know what? Since this did that, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Which, again, if you notice everything I talked about, it was for other people.
Yeah.
It made me no longer talk about people behind their back.
Yeah.
It made me want to understand what people liked and didn't like, so I could offer that for them and to them.
Yeah.
Well, what happened for me was there was somebody, it was a video I watched. It was Nipsey Hussle, actually, was the guy, and he said for him, what came at an early age was he knew who he was. The difference of the two was I knew I knew and wanted to learn about how to treat people. He knew what he was for himself. He knew who he was at an early age. Our early age, what came first, was completely different. His actually is the very much more important one. It's the one that needs to come first in order for you to be that, and then you can do whatever you do for other people. Mine was always for other people before it was for myself, and I gave and did all these other people things, and then when it came to me, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was hurting, and everything took away from, like you talked about with the glass, and it was just a crash. So I had to go and learn exactly what you talked about. How do I take care of myself? How do I respect what I would for somebody else? How do I do that for me? Now I can do it, and I'm right back to also being who I was anyway for other people. But I didn't struggle with myself.
Do you struggle ever with, because I know there's times where I and this is a little new to me, but I almost feel like I have to be a little selfish.
I don't know if it's a little.
You know what I mean?
You don't have to say a lot or a little. You just have to be selfish.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
Because for people that aren't used to putting themselves first, it's a complete flip of the script. You know what I mean? And it's I mean,
it's hard. You can't. It's a fight.
It's change.
Yeah, and it's
Big
a challenge
time.
for you that says like, well, now I'm being mean, maybe, or you know, now. Especially when people know you to be the person that's so giving and like. So when you come to the time of wanting to get into your mental health, when you come to the time of identifying the importance of mental health, you have to do things that are self-related, selfish things. You have to be selfish in order to be selfless. And so it's a change that happens for you because you're tapping into yourself, you're doing things for yourself, and you're no longer, to a certain extent, doing things for other people while they're familiar with that, and now they're thinking like, you're this terrible person, or, you know, why you change up? What are you doing?
What would up his ass?
It's not that. Like, and, you know, you'll only be able to experience the greatness of it once you continue on through respecting yourself that way. But it's a necessary thing, and it's not about it being bad. It's simply about it being what we know about that. When we did something and we didn't want to do it, or when we did something and whether maybe we did do it, but the ending result was, you can't go. That part is the unhealthiest part about it. So now you got that person that benefited.
I would do things that I didn't want to do, thinking it was the right thing, and then I would get pissed off about it.
And look at
I would hold a resentment.
And look who.
And I didn't realize I could just say no.
Absolutely.
Sorry, but no.
And then,
can't do it.
And I don't really like to do comparisons, but in that case, if you kind of compare, the person you made happy is happy, while you didn't maybe know, and that's great too. Maybe you didn't know you weren't going to be happy behind it, but you were. Well, that's also why it's important to know what's going to make you happy and not happy, so that you can remain happy and offer the same happiness for yourself that you would for that person that you're going to give to anyway.
It's foreign to a lot of people. It's definitely foreign to a lot of people. But this is a new norm for me. That's what it's becoming, like a new normal.
Well,
it's new. My life, I've been through some heavy things like we all have, and I don't expect life to be anything but different. It's just different. I don't expect it to go back to the way it was.
And it's good. So we talked about before.
Absolutely.
We spoke on the challenge of knowing what you know. And not knowing what you don't know. So it now brought me to say there's only two people in the world, in a sense. People that know and people that don't know. And when you don't know, there's no fault to you. And then when you know, now we can kind of start talking about accountability related things, because when you know what you know, you have to respect it. Like, if you don't respect it, then it's like you're playing your own game, you're creating your own battles, you're challenging and creating obstacles that don't have to exist based upon whatever you know for yourself. And then you're going against it. It's just deliberate disrespect in a sense
Yeah.
for yourself, which is no good, which is going to leave you empty, sad. It's going to leave you all these negative related emotions and feelings that
Yeah.
it's not good.
Yeah.
You don't like it. You don't want to experience it. I look at on the road driving.
Yeah.
We all know old people drive slow.
Mhm.
And it hit me one day that while old people drive slow, us that don't have that age like them, that experience that life to us like they do,
Yeah.
we seem to get very, very frustrated with them.
Yeah.
Why you driving so slow? You shouldn't have your license anymore. Da 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 da. What I noticed is, why are we so concerned about how they're driving? And it technically has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
You will get an opportunity to get around them,
Yeah.
and when you do, that person won't be thought of ever again.
Yeah.
And if you think about it again, you're in a rush and they're not. It's a different type of peace happening there.
Yeah.
They lived. I had somebody say to me that the youth is wasted on the young,
Yeah.
the wise is wasted on the old. Couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
So like I looked at my son and I consider myself
Now
to
it
be
makes
youthful,
sense. Yep.
and I can't keep up with him.
Yep.
And then I knew what wisdom was,
Yeah.
and I knew how older people have the wisdom and things like that. You relate those two things all together. Old people driving slow,
Yep.
having an experience of life,
Yep.
having wisdom going through things. You'll realize to take this story, and when your time comes, whenever it is, there's no need to be in a rush for anything.
Yeah.
And or you prepared yourself better to not need to be in a rush for
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And mental health relates to that.
Yeah.
100%.
No doubt about it. There's a lot of truth in that.
Very true.
I know.
Very true.
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Wisdom. And the only way to wisdom is through experience.
Experience. I always
It's-
thought
it-
that I could be a young motivational speaker in a sense, and I
Yeah.
said the reason I wanted to be the younger one with it is because I was always I like to listen to it and things, and I
Yeah.
said, well, these people are too old. Like, no, I was a young person that listened to it, but I knew while I tried to share it with my friends who were
Young
my
people
age,
want to hear young people.
they don't
Yeah.
worry about that. So
Yeah.
as much as I thought I could do it and things, I kept hitting walls that I couldn't do it. Like it didn't feel like it was me on how I talked. It wasn't me on, it just wasn't able to happen.
Yeah.
Now I realize the wasn't able to happen part of it was the experience.
Yep.
You have to live through things and go through things. Just like
Yep.
people tell us when they try to
Yep.
advise us, oh, there's things you can be told and there's things you got to go through.
Yep.
You got to go through things.
But you're
in order
28
to-
now and been
Oh,
through
yeah,
shit.
it's
so
good
the whole
now,
thing
yeah.
is now you
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Now it
because
can be in
you
effect,
impart
but-
wisdom to me, and I'm 53
Sure.
years old. But now I don't know if calendar age has anything to do with it.
No,
I
it's
think
experience.
It's the experience.
Absolutely, it's
the
experience.
Yeah.
Again, still talking about everything that within this conversation that relates to mental health. This is why it's very important to like understand that technically it's not about any category for again the wellness or illness, because it's health. It's if we can look at physical health and going to the gym and things like that
Yeah.
that relate, and we can respect the difference of where people are. Like I don't really hear too much judgment about like when people are working towards a goal physically when it relates to health and people are in the gym. I actually don't ever really hear anything about this person that's that much built physically and has this much tone compared to somebody that's like extremely overweight.
Yeah.
But yet they're in the same setting. There's like a respect that's offered there.
Yeah.
And that same thing has to happen with mental health, where again it's about how people were raised, what they went through. We all have different backgrounds.
Yep.
And so because of that is why people respond the way they do or don't respond the way they do,
Yep.
which takes it to what they've categorized as illnesses and wellnesses and things like that. But
Yep.
it's all still in relation to mental health, and it's a continuum for everyone that everyone has to work on and go through.
Yeah.
It's just that fortunate for some people can respond better than others.
Yeah.
Some people don't have to work as hard as others.
Yeah.
But those that have to work harder than others, it's not taking anything away from you. Your life had a little bit more adversity than somebody else, which
Yep.
to me, makes you a tougher, strong soldier in a sense, if you ask me. But
Oh yeah, no doubt. No
yeah,
doubt.
I mean,
And you know what, that thought, it gives me, and going back to the Hope Mobile and trying to hustle hope,
Mhm.
it gives me hope because you know what, hopefully people realize, and what I get from everything that you're saying is, just because you're one way, you're never stuck one way.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
I can stand and do jumping jacks,
Yep.
and I can do mental jumping jacks.
Yep.
There's a lot of different resources out
Yep.
there.
it just takes you to move past your acknowledgement, because acknowledgement even happens even if you don't want it to. We all can acknowledge something easily,
Yeah.
and it takes you to move from your acknowledgement to acceptance.
Yep.
And then from there, with your acceptance, you will be able to accept also that you know you need to take action.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you can change.
Yeah.
You're
Never
right.
too
You
late.
never have to be the same. Nothing ever has to be the same. Like technically, what comes behind you getting into your mental health as well is to understand the control that you do have.
Yeah.
You can't control everything.
Yeah.
But the one thing you can control, which affects everything anyway, which kind of will make you battle it, like this concept of control,
Yeah.
is you can control you.
Yeah.
So like you can control you and what you do.
Yeah.
Like, and behind that can change a whole lot of things for you,
Yeah.
bad or good. So you know,
Hmm.
definitely important to like know who you are. Very important. I'm
Thanks
so
for
glad I
coming,
was
too.
able to be in
Ah,
there. Yeah.
I love you,
I
man.
love you, boss. Absolutely. I love you. Yes, sir. I hope that I brought hope to the Hope Mobile relating to.
Dude, you brought hope to the Hope
Mental
Mobile.
health.
That's a lot of hope.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hope. This is gonna be like 3 videos.
Listen, let me know how hopeful you've become behind this. Please drop those comments.
Yes.
Please subscribe because
Subscribe.
this Hope Mobile is an amazing thing. Oh my God. Have they been able to see the vibe here? Do you have a video that gives them an
No, but I
opportunity
need to, because you know what I was thinking about doing? I was thinking about doing a whole little, a little walking tour, but a little backstory as to how I came about getting this Hope-mobile.
Okay.
Because a lot of the heart of this Hope-mobile is is how I even came to own it.
Got you.
It was
Oh,
back.
wow.
Jimmy was in jail.
Okay.
He still had 6 months to go.
Oh yes, when you wanted to put the trip together.
And I wanted to put the trip together.
Yep.
And I went to an RV dealership. Dude didn't even want me to see it.
Mm.
No. He wanted to sell me some, $15,000,
Okay.
RV. And I said, look, man, I seen this on the internet. And he said, that thing's dead in the woods somewhere. I said, well, take me to the woods and let's go see it. And we went, found it in another lot that was like 5 miles where they had junk.
Wow.
And they cleared some branches off of it, and there was snow and ice and shit like that. And I got in it, and I sat down, and the guy sat here, and he's like, come on, let's go. And I'm like, this is it, man. And he said, you want this? I said, yep, this is it, man. This is me. You know why? Because one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I felt heart in this fucking thing.
Nice.
And he's like, you gotta be kidding me. I said, nope. They had to bring a truck out, jump start it, wire shit. It didn't even have tires.
Wow.
They put tires on it so I could drive to the tire store. I barely
Wow.
even made it.
And you can feel this. You can feel the energy of this
Yeah.
Hope Mobile when you step in it.
It's got vibes.
It has hope.
It's had a lot, and it's had a lot of experience in it.
That's
you know
great.
What I mean? It's had a lot of good times, man. It's got some miles behind it. And I am going to do a video on it. I'm
Great.
going to do a video on it for sure.
Great.
And give people the backstory. Because it's the way it came. And it's funny, the guy's like, I mean, he was literally like, like, you're fucking making a mistake. Well, when I got out to Arizona, after Jimmy got out of jail,
Yeah.
I picked him up.
Yeah.
We got out to Arizona, like, all those weeks later.
Mhm.
I texted him.
Mm.
He didn't even respond.
You let them know you made it
I
to
let him
Arizona.
know. I said, here you go, man. Hope-mobile made it. He was like, oh, man, this guy's crazy. He's like, but I was like, you know what? I just felt it. I felt it. Could I have gotten bigger, better, newer? Yeah, but I was like, nah,
Wow,
dude,
this is amazing.
This was the.
This is it.
Yeah.
And look, like you said, look what you've done with it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you had me.
I mean,
I'm so glad to be welcome.
I know,
this
man.
is
I
this.
know. Wow, you'll be back
Oh yeah.
by popular
Please.
demand.